This is your second fight and pick after the roller coaster of the last one in May. What is the feeling like now, where I'm assuming everything is a little more organized and less of a surprise?
I'm a little more confident now. When I was my last fight, the coronavirus stuff had just started, and everything was kind of like up in the air, and nobody knew what was going on, and it's like we might fight, we might not fight, and everything was just craziness. And so now, since we've had so many fights since then, I feel more confident and more like stress free going into this fight. I feel like everything's a little more under control.
After watching it back, what did you take from the fight with Amanda Nunes when you went back to work in the gym?
Um, that fight, I didn't feel myself, and it sucked. I'm really upset with myself for my performance in that fight. She's a tough opponent. She's a very tough opponent. Um, it just, I guess, like she had a faster pace. She was more in my face, So I took that into consideration going into this next fight. I still believe in my skills and everything. I just need to be pushing forward more and yeah, just I don't know, push forward more.
When you have an opponent like Mackenzie Dern, she's so known for her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, obviously. Is there temptation to want to grapple with her just to prove a point for yourself?
Absolutely not. I like to be smart and like, when I find somebody who's got a strength somewhere, I like to take that away from them and take it to my game and what I'm strong at. So I'm not gonna if it goes to the ground, I'm no stranger to the ground. I've been doing this for a very very long time. So I wouldn't be shocked and like not want to take it there. If it goes there, I'm ready for it. But I'm not gonna purposely try to go to the ground.
Do you feel like she's evolved as a fighter since she's been in the UFC?
Definitely, she's evolved as a fighter. I mean, you can't not evolve when you're put in with the best women in the world and have to fight and figure it out. So she's definitely evolved. I think, uh, I'm going to get a better version of Mackenzie Dern for this fight, and I'm prepared for it.
My final question, how does this fight play out in your mind when you've thought about it?
Um, you can't be 100% with what you might see or whatever, but I think it might go 3 rounds. Might go to a decision, but you never know what can happen. It's the UFC, so we'll see.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
We'll go next to Damon Martin with MMA Fighting. Your line is open.
Randa, let me ask first off with Mackenzie Dern, have you been impressed by what you've seen out of her so far in her UFC career? She's obviously, I think, 3-1. She's had some good wins. She had the tough fight with Amanda, opponent obviously you're familiar with. What have you thought of her fight so far?
Um, Technique wise, like I don't think she's anything special. On the ground, obviously, she's been doing that a lot longer than most of us, and so I definitely respect her on the ground. But I think the thing I'm most impressed with is her ability to take a punch and keep coming at you, and that's one thing I'm going to be looking at is or what one thing that we've been working on is like the fact that she can get hit and keep coming forward. So that's one thing I'm impressed with.
Well, of course, talking about Mackenzie, immediately we go to the jiu-jitsu. I know she's worked a lot on her striking. She started working with Jason Perillo for this camp. She showed it in the Hebus fight. She does have hands. I mean, obviously, she lost that fight, but, she didn't get knocked out. She had a strong fight there. But when you face an opponent with such a strong skill set in one area, on paper, you kind of got to imagine at some point she's going to try to take it down. She's going to try to go in that jiu-jitsu realm. Does that make it easier or harder when you face an opponent who is so strong in that one area where you kind of imagine that's where they want to fight?
I find it easier to fight people who have a strength in one particular place because your camp becomes simpler and not so complex. Like fighting somebody like Amanda Hebes, it's like okay, we got to be ready for everywhere. And for somebody like Carla Esparza, we know she's going to take you to the ground, so we got to just focus on don't let her take you to the ground. And I think this is the same thing kind of with that fight going into the fight with Mackenzie Dern is she's going to want to take it to the ground. I'm sure she thinks she's better there than most of us. So and she's done it in most of her fights where she's wanted to take the fight to the ground and coming off a submission in her last fight, we're expecting her to want to take it to the ground, but I'm not undermining her hands or her skills everywhere else. But I find
And
it a lot easier when someone comes in with one strength. somewhere in particular.
When you came off the Ultimate Fighter, you kind of grew up in the UFC in a way. You've had almost all of your fights in the UFC. And you have a lot of experience at this point against a lot of top-notch competition. Mackenzie's still very young in her career. She's still learning, and I don't know from the Hebus fight to the Cyphers fight, did we learn that much more about her? How much does experience play a part? That you have had to face adversity, that you have had to fight out of tough positions, and fight out of things when things don't go right. Whereas we haven't seen that much from her just because she is so young in her career.
I think that's a huge benefit that I have coming into this fight. I do have a lot of experience. I fought most of the girls in top 10, so I fought some of the best, so and most of the best. So, I have that coming into this fight, and the ups and downs and all of the all of the things I've learned through every single fight. I always learn something. I always take something from every single fight. So yeah, that's definitely a huge benefit going into this fight. And not having so many fights can either be a good thing or a bad thing, because when you start overthinking, having too many fights, overthinking kind of plays against you. And when you're new and fresh, it could help you in a way. So you can't base somebody's skill off of that. A lot of things are mental, and that's what I learned along the way.
And last question, of course, Randa, the focus is your fight. I don't want to take away from that, but a big main event on this card, Colby Covington against Tyron Woodley. I got to ask your opinion or pick, prediction. How do you see that one playing out?
I think it's a great fight, and I'm gonna have to go with Kobe Covington this fight. I think it's not gonna go the distance, but yeah, sorry to Tyron Woodley, but I'm thinking that Kobe Covington is gonna win this fight.
Thank you, Randa.
No problem.
We'll go next to Jeffrey Harris with 411 Mania MMA.
Good afternoon, Randa. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem.
We are coming up on the 6th anniversary of your UFC debut, so that's over. So when you first came into the UFC, women's MMA was still fairly new to the promotion. So can you speak at all about, what this journey has been like for you, becoming a UFC fighter, a veteran, and now you're fighting on ESPN, and what that experience is like from your perspective?
I think my experience with being with the UFC and being here for so long, and being able to have the opportunity to fight like most of the girls, most of the top girls, it's been an honor and it's been amazing. But I feel like I have so much more to prove, and I have so much more to do, and so much more to accomplish. And um, it's been great, and we've evolved so much. I think we have one of the toughest divisions, if not the toughest divisions in the UFC right now, with the strawweights. And it's come a long way, and we've proven
Also,
over and over
Randa,
and over.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry, my connection bugged out there for a second. Also, Randa, do you have any thoughts on matter and the judging? Because most of your losses in the UFC are by decision. Is that something you're looking to avoid, Mackenzie Dern? Because you don't want a
Um,
bad judge's decision here.
No, obviously, I've been in that situation many times, and it sucks, especially when you feel that you've won, and if your opponent says they think they lost, you know what I mean? It sucks, but you gotta always remember, like, you gotta give it everything you have, and whatever happens at the end, you know, it's not in your hands, and that's one thing I've learned along the way. But yeah, I never go in there wanting a decision. I never go in there wanting a decision, but it happens. These girls are tough, and we've both worked very, very hard to be there, and we're not gonna just, if it happens, it happens. But I'm never looking for a decision.
Last year you fought in defeated Angela Hill, who uh, lined UFC card Michelle Watterson. Did you see that fight? And what did you think of the judge's decision for that fight? Did you think Angela Hill did enough to win, or did you agree with the decision?
That was another fight that I had where, a person comes in there with one kind of strength, and you take away that strength from them, and you can beat them. And that was one thing that I was focused on. And watching her fight go the distance, 5 full rounds, where I took it, in the first round, and I ended it. It really made me realize, I'm always learning about myself, and I kind of like don't give myself enough credit. Watching that fight, I realized, like, man, I'm freaking tough. I ended that fight in the first round, and they went the distance. So, but it was an awesome fight. Both girls are tough as nails, and both I feel that was a great matchup too. And it's all about matchups. That was a great matchup. They both kept it standing. They both, they both like their strengths are obviously stand up, and it is a great fight.
One thing, MMA, I think this is a great sport for ups and for underdogs. Would you say you're the underdog going in against Mackenzie Dern, and do you think that gives a good platform for you for this fight?
Yeah, going in there as an underdog is not something new to me. I'm almost always the underdog, but it just gives me no pressure, and I'm not looking at this fight like that. I'm just looking at this fight like I lost my last one. I'm really pissed off on myself, and this is the opportunity for me to prove to myself that that fight doesn't define me, and I'm just gonna go in there and have fun and do what I've been training really hard for, and whatever happens, happens.
Uh, Time, Randa, and best of luck for this matchup.
Thank you.
We'll go next to Mike Bond with USA Today. Your line is open.
In this situation, do you just kind of feel comfortable here and knowing that every time you've been in the spot, you've been able to get back on track?
Um, yeah, that's one thing. Like I don't really play it that way in my head. It's just it just happens that way, I guess. Where it's like when I have a loss, I kind of like brings me back to stop overthinking, start focusing on what you're good at, and go in there and be the best at what you're good at. And that's one thing I'm taking away from my last fight is like, yeah, that sucks. Stop thinking, and I think overthinking is one of my biggest downfalls, and whenever I have a loss, it kind of like brings me back to normal and like, no, you got this, you can do it.
What's the mindset on the flip side of that when you get a win? Because we haven't seen you put two together in the UFC yet either.
I think coming off a win, I think like I want to keep it that way. Like I just put so much pressure on myself. I start, overthinking and trying to do better than I did before, and just trying to work hard, but overthinking and just I don't know how to like fix that. I'm trying my best. I think having more faith in what I'm good at, and just yeah, like just believing in my skills and not having to overdo it. Just have fun. It's something I've lost, I feel, along the way, and I just need to find it again.